Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone podcast. My name is Kathy. Mr. Kohberger's sentencing hearing is less than 2 weeks away, today being July 10th, the sentencing proceeding scheduled to commence the 23rd of July at 9 a.m. Unless Mr. Kohberger files some sort of a motion objecting to the plea deal, seeking to rescind it, there are certain things that the public can expect will occur at the sentencing hearing. The first is we can expect to see Mr. Kohberger not in his street clothing anymore as we've seen him at the majority of the public hearings that have happened through change of plea on July 2nd. He will be wearing his jail-issued clothing because Judge Hippler entered an order from the bench stating that Mr. Kohberger's right to wear street clothing at court appearances were being rescinded as a result of his pleading guilty. We can expect to hear from both sides, probably Ms. Taylor on behalf of the defense and probably Mr. Thompson on behalf of the state. They are the two lead attorneys for the respective sides. Ms. Taylor will more likely than not argue in favor of something less than the maximum in the plea deal. Mr. Thompson will likely argue that the plea deal, as agreed to, should be imposed in a sentence exactly as stated. We can expect to hear from certain family members of Madison, of Kaylee, of Xana and Ethan, because sentencing is when family members have an opportunity to address the court and make a victim impact statement. And there's also an opportunity for a defendant who is awaiting to be sentenced. The judge will typically turn to the defendant and ask the defendant if he wishes to be heard. Mr. Kohberger has said very, very little during these proceedings. We have only seen him speak approximately 3 times and very minimally. The first was when he returned from Pennsylvania to Idaho, made his first appearance in front of Judge Megan E. Marshall, and she read what the counts were against him. At that point, it was taken from the criminal complaint and what the maximum penalties were for all, and essentially asked bare-bone questions if Mr. Kohberger understood what the aforementioned was. Similarly, at his arraignment, following the issuance of the indictment several months later, Judge John Judge did the same, this time reading the counts from the indictment and explaining what the maximum penalties were for each one. And Mr. Kohberger again stated that he understood, but when it came time for him to enter a plea, he stood silent. It was Ms. Taylor who spoke for him and said that he was speaking silent. And at that time, Judge John Judge entered the 5 not guilty pleas for him that then were changed to guilty at the change of plea hearing. And then finally, we heard Mr. Kohberger say a series of yeses and guilty, and very little beyond that when he was questioned by Judge Stephen J. Hippler. So now the issue is, will Mr. Kohberger break his silence and say something, as some defendants do at sentencing? They may stand there and proclaim their innocence if they were found guilty by a jury, by a judge if it's a bench trial. Other times they will issue remorse for what has happened, and sometimes they will admit again that they were responsible for the crimes, and other times they don't say a word. At this point, it is unclear whether Mr. Kohberger will break his silence or not. That's a question that will be answered at sentencing. This is Kathy. Thank you for for joining us today.